In this video, we will develop a custom game instance that will manage all of the logic we will implement. Now, we're ready to start implementing our loading screen system. The first crucial component we'll create is a custom game instance class. The game instance is perfect for handling our loading screen because it persists throughout the entire game session, surviving level transitions. Let's break this down into manageable steps. First, we'll open the starter project in Unreal Engine. Once it's loaded, we'll create a new C++ class with game instance as the parent class. In our game instance, we'll bind functions to key level loading events. These events will tell us exactly when loading begins and ends, allowing us to show and hide our loading screen at the right moments. Next, we'll configure our project to use this custom game instance. This is a crucial step. Without it, Unreal wouldn't know to use our loading screen implementation. Finally, we'll perform some initial testing to ensure our game instance is properly set up and receiving the level loading events. Let's look at how we'll create this for our project. All right, the first thing that we want to do is open up our starter project that we have here. So with the starter project, we have the config, content, source, and the U project file. Let's create the Visual Studio solution so we can open up the project through Visual Studio. So we can just right-click, show more options, and generate Visual Studio project files. Once that's done, we can open up our project.sln file in Visual Studio. Once the project opens up, now we can build it and just run it through here. So we can just build our project, and once that's built, we can just run it. And then the next step will be to create our own custom game instance class. All right, now that the project has been built, we can just run it through Visual Studio. All right, so now the next step is we can go to our C++ folder, right-click, and create a new C++ class. For the parent, we'll use game instance. And we'll just call it my game instance. All right, let's reload the project. And I like to close this so I can build it and run it again through Visual Studio. All right, so here's our game instance class. So right now, let's add a few functions that we can use to bind into some of the level loading events. So inside the header file, we're going to add 3 functions. First, we're going to provide the init function. So we're going to override this function. So when our game instance class gets initialized, we'll be able to bind to the begin loading screen event to call this function and the end loading screen event to call this function. So let's go ahead and implement those 2 functions. So let's start off with the init function. So for that, it's pretty straightforward. We just call our parent init function, and then we're going to bind into this preload map delegate that whenever it fires, it will call our begin loading screen function. And this is what happens just before the map starts loading, a new map starts loading. Just before the map has finished loading, post load map with world delegate gets called, passes in the world that just finished loading, and then we'll get to call our end loading screen function. So let's implement those 2 functions. For those, it is pretty straightforward. The begin loading screen function will need to take in the map name. That's how this delegate was declared. And then the end loading screen function needs to take in a uWorld pointer, and that is the world that just got loaded in. So for now, we're just going to display a couple of log messages to display that we're inside our begin loading screen and we're inside our end loading screen. So again, let's make sure we build this, run it, and then we can configure everything else inside the editor and test it out as well. All right, so in order for to get the project to use our game instance class, we have to go to the project settings. Under maps and modes, we can specify which game instance we want this project to use, and we want to use my game instance. So now to test this out, we can just run it, and inside the output log, we can filter on warning messages. Let's clear this out and start, and it'll tell us that the my game instance begin loading screen got called for this map, and the end loading screen got called when this level completed loading. So it looks like our game instance is created and set up and configured correctly. In the next video, we will explore the movie player module to display a loading screen.